about, I'm not my body. Who am I? I'm not Angelo. There, the reality is, he's not Angelo. And then somebody was saying, yeah, he's a nut. I am the person, the entity that's looking in the mirror and witnessing a body labeled Angelo. Can we accept that? That's who I am. You see? And think about this, and I thought about this morning. If I am looking at something, how could I possibly be the something that I'm looking at? Think about that. If I'm looking at something, how could I possibly be that something that I'm looking at? So when we get into that realization of who we are, it's kind of exciting. It's kind of exciting to see that there's something there that's the witness to everything that's going on, that's not attached to any of this crap that we're experiencing, and it's just there witnessing. And it's pretty powerful. It's the I am that I am. And so I think this month we open up our conscience to become aware of the I am. And I practiced this. I got a phone call this week. And it's not at present, I'm going to mention names or entities. I got a call, it's Stellar's, don't ask it. I got a call from the president of a board that I'm on several. And here's what she says. She says, we have a serious problem. We need to solve it. It's gotten out of hand. We have a problem. Ah, we do. And what is the problem? She told me. And I decided, you know, I'm giving the talk Sunday. I'm going to put this in practice. I'm going to see exactly how this stuff works. So what I put in mind was, we don't have a problem. We can't have a problem because it's the collective I am. The we is the collective I am. And the I am cannot have a problem. It's the source of all there is. There is no problem. We can create them, though, however. I do that. But anyway, so I put that in mind that we have no problem. And all we have in here is a situation that needs to be completed. It's as simple as that. So anyway, I go to the meeting. Serious meeting. And a shocker of all shockers. I walk in and the person who was in a panic running the meeting said, we don't have a problem. Oh, really? Yeah. We just have something that we need to complete. And within 10, 15 minutes, it was done. This is what I'm talking about. When we can put in mind the idea of who and what we are, that we have dominion over everything, and that we have no problems. It's kind of exciting. There's some research that went on to show that consciousness is so amazingly wonderful because we're communicating without saying a word sometimes. And there's a research project that was put on by the Institute of Human Studies out of San Diego, and many of you probably have heard this this research study, but just it's apropos that we do it now. And the idea was, let's study consciousness, and let's find out if consciousness is prevalent everywhere. Think about it. Consciousness is prevalent everywhere. Was consciousness prevalent when I walked into that room and I put in mind that we had no problem? Was consciousness prevalent when the president who was panicky the day before said, we have no problem? Tell me about consciousness and whether it's prevalent or not. It is. What they did was they took, the secretary had 2 large rubber trees, rubber plants. And the CEO of the institute decided, I'm going to check consciousness. And he took one of the large leaves and put some sensor electrodes and packaged in the leaf and tied rubber bands around it to hold this leaf with a sensor, and then it was tied into a polygraph machine. And then he decided, you know, I'm not going to talk to this plant, but I'm going to be doing some things. I want to threaten it, and I want to see what relationship consciousness has, if it is really prevalent throughout. So what he did was he took one of the leaves and dipped it in hot coffee. That's all I did. And hot coffee, and he looked at the needle. There was nothing. In fact, it was kind of a downward thing. And in a human being, when they're doing a polygraph and it looks like that, it means that we're bored. Here's this rubber tree, bored. Okay, so you're giving me coffee, so you know. Then he did this. He was 15 feet away, and he, without saying a word, he put in mind this. I'm going to take a match and burn up that leaf that's between those two electrodes. I'm going to burn it up. He no longer had it in his mind. Then the needle on that polygraph went nuts. Tell me about consciousness. And it doesn't pervade everything. So then he thought, well, okay, again in mind, I love this plant. I'm not going to burn it up. And the needle settled back into boredom. Isn't that? I think you got to clap for this guy. I mean, it's pretty awesome. How are we doing on time? We're doing okay. What happens is this, during this month, we need to realize that we are going to have billions of situations occurring in our life that will confront us. And some of them are pretty disastrous, or at least we perceive them to be so. But they really are just events. Because what we realize is, it isn't the events that bring happiness in our life. It isn't the event that brings discontent and unhappiness in our life. What brings happiness into our life? What does? We do! We're the only ones that can determine whether we're happy or not. And this month's all about doing that. By connecting to this universal, through consciousness, and connecting to it and bringing forth through the love energy of the universe itself, the solutions to all problems. There's a story that's really pretty awesome. And it was told to us by David Masters, the guy's name. And it's about Michael Stone. And some of you may know this story, but it was pretty popular at one time. But Michael Stone was a pole vaulter, and he was about ready to make his last run, his last pole vault jump. And the bar was set at 17 feet 4 inches. And all of a sudden he's there with the pole in his hand, ready to make his final jump, and that final jump would have scored for him, and he would have won. Fear entered his life. He was fearful, and he knew, I can't do this. I can't do this. And what he did, he brought into experience, I can do this. All of a sudden, he had a shift in consciousness. How many of you have ever had your heart open up and have this surge of energy that you're so excited that I can do this? We've had this happen to us when we're connected to the allness of all there is. And so he had that experience. And so he runs down the runway and he clears the bar at 17 feet 6.5 inches. He broke a world record. Now what was so amazing was not that this man jumped over or vaulted over the size of a 2-story building. That's not what was so incredible. What was incredible is that this guy was what? You know? He was blind. He's a blind athlete. And when we look at something like that, there's nothing we can't do when we connect to the source of all there is. And those of us who've run track, and I have, how difficult would it be for a man who's blind, a 17-year-old, holding a pole that's almost 16 feet long, running down a runway that's over 60 yards, setting the tip of that pole into a box that stops its forward motion, that vaults him over a 17-foot high bar. If we can think about that, we know that we're something special. And that when we do this, we let the light of our magnificence shine wherever we are, and we take dominion of everything. I'm going to close. Yes, don't clap. It upsets me. It upsets me when you clap when I say I'm going to close. But you know, we're talking about the good stuff. What about those people? What about those people who never reached that higher level of consciousness that the PLCs have? What about them? What are they thinking? What are they saying? Well, I have it right here. I'm going to read it to you. And this is fact. This is fact. And one year, the person who received the Miss American Award was asked this question. I'm not going to mention names except when I get to the politicians. And this young lady was asked, if you could live forever, Would you and why? Now, that's a stupid question, isn't it? If you could live forever, would you and why? So here was her answer, though, and this is a consciousness that hasn't developed into a higher plane of existence, but it's attached so much to form. There's a connection to form. And so here's her answer. Okay, I would not live forever because we should not live forever. Fine. Because if we were supposed to live forever, then we would live forever. But we cannot live forever, which is why I would not live forever. These are actual. This came from a movie star, and it's very touching. Very touching. I'm not going to mention her name, you know her. Whenever I watch TV and see the poor, starving children all over the world, I can't help but cry. Well, that's okay. But then she goes on, which is, I mean, I'd love to be skinny like that. But not with all the flies and death and stuff. My God! This came from a multi-millionaire movie star. Here's another one from another actress. Smoking kills you. If you're killed, you lose a very important part of your life. And this is from, I love athletes. And this is from a basketball star. I've never had major knee surgery on any other part of my body. And this is from the mayor of Washington, D.C. Outside of the killings, Washington, D.C. has the lowest crime rate in the country. And this is from a congressman from Texas. That low-down scoundrel deserves to be kicked to death by a jackass, and I'm just the one to do it. And this is from Al Gore. I don't mind mentioning the politician. Al Gore, my friend. It isn't pollution that's harming the environment, and he got Nobel Peace Prize in this one. It isn't pollution that's harming the environment. It's the impurities in our air and water that are doing. And this is from our dear friend Dan Quayle. See, I mentioned one politician, I have to mention the other. I love California. I practically grew up in Phoenix. And this is one of my favorites. Is from a football quarterback. I won't mention his name, it's not right. The word genius isn't applicable in football. A genius is a guy like Norman Einstein. I'm almost done. Just a couple more. Bear with me. I'm having too much fun. We don't necessarily discriminate, and this is from a colonel in the ROCT. He's an instructor. We don't necessarily discriminate. We simply exclude certain types of people. Here's a letter that went out from the Department of Social Services, and I won't mention the state. Your food stamps will be stopped effective in March because we received notice that you passed away. May God bless you. You may reapply if there's a change in your circumstances. And this is from Australia, a big leader there. Traditionally, most of Australia's imports come from overseas. And lastly, but not least, you want to hear the last one? Yes. They said yes. If somebody, and this also came from the FCC chairman, I will explain what that is. If somebody had a bad heart, now if somebody had a bad heart, they can plug this jack in at night as they go to bed, and it will monitor their heart throughout the night, and the next morning when they wake up dead, there'll be a recording. So it is. Thank you.